Hello and welcome back to Saxon Math. This is lesson 73, Exponents, Writing Decimal Numbers as Fractions, Part 2. Since lesson 38, we've used the exponent 2 to indicate that a number is multiplied by itself, such as 5 squared means 5 times 5. Exponents indicate repeated multiplications, so 5 cubed means 5 times 5 times 5. 5 to the fourth power means 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. The exponent indicates how many times the base is used as a factor. We read the numbers with exponents as powers. So the 4 is a power, 3 is a power, 2 is a power. So this would be 5 to the power of 2, 5 to the power of 3, 5 to the power of 4. Note that when the exponent is 2, we usually say squared, and when the exponent is 3, we usually say cubed. The following examples show how we read expressions with the exponents. So 5 to the second power, or 5 squared, 10 to the third power, or 10 cubed, 3 to the fourth power, 2 to the fifth power, and so forth. So if I gave you another one, this would be 101 to the fourth power. So that would mean the same as 101 times 101 times 101 times 101. So example 1, compare 3 to the fourth power and 4 to the third power. So what is 3 to the fourth power? Well, that means 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and we're comparing it to 4 to the third power, which means 4 times itself 3 times. So this would be the same as 9. This would be 9, so I'm going to take 9 times 9. I'm going to get 81. I'm going to compare that to, this would be 16 times 4. 16 times 4 real quick would be 40 plus 24, which makes 64. So this would be 64 on this side. So that means 3 to the fourth power is going to be greater than 4 to the third power. So if you were to look at it like that, you see that 81 is greater than 64. Therefore, 3 to the fourth power is greater than 4 to the third power. Example 2, write the prime factorization of 1000 using exponents to group factors. So all that means is we start with 1000. I'm going to do division by primes. So I've got 1000 divided by 2. 2 is the smallest prime number that's divisible. Would equal 500. 500 is also divisible by 2. This would be 250. 250 divided by 2 would be 125. 125 divided by 5 would be 25. 25 divided by 5 would be 5, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. So now I have 2 times 2, so this is what 1000 equals. It equals 2 times 2 times 2 times 5 times 5 times 5. You guys remember that from previous lessons? I don't know if you remember that it was 3 2s and 3 5s, and if we had 10,000, it was 4 2s and 4 5s. Well, now it wants us to use exponents to group the factors. So we're going to just rename this using exponents. What is this? Well, this is 2 to the third power. And what is this? This is 5 to the third power. So 1000 is the same as 2 to the third power times 5 to the third power. So that's what you'd end up with in your final answer when using exponents to group your factors. Example 3, simplify 100 minus 10 squared, or 10 to the second power. In this case, you want to do, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. You want to make sure you're doing parentheses first, there are none, exponents second, we have them here. This is 10 squared. That would be exponents. So we're going to do that part first, which equals 10 times 10, and that's the same as 100. So what do you end up with here? You end up with 100 minus 100, which should equal 0, because now you're doing the subtraction part. There's no multiplication, there's no division, there's no addition, but we had subtraction. So that should be your final answer on that particular example. We will review changing a decimal number to a fraction or a mixed number. Recall from lesson 35 that the number of places after the decimal point indicates the denominator of the decimal fraction, 10, 100, or 1000, etc. The digits to the right of the decimal point make up the numerator of the fraction. So for example, write 5/10 as a common fraction. If you know how to name this decimal number properly instead of 0.5, which is used commonly when speaking on the phone or in a situation where it's tough to understand what you're saying, you might say 0.5 just to make it very clear what that number is. However, the most appropriate and proper way to name this decimal is 5/10. It's in the 10ths place. This 5 is in the 10ths place. And because it's in the 10ths place, you know what the denominator is, and you know what the numerator is. It's 5 in the 10ths place. So that's all there is to it. There's nothing in the ones place, and there's 5/10. This would also be reduced to 1/2. So the best common fraction for this answer would be 1/2. So what is the denominator of each of these decimal fractions? The denominator for this one would be 10. This would be 2/10. Could be reduced. This one would be 43 in the numerator because it's 43. What's this place value right here? It's the hundredths place value. And this one, we have 658 in the numerator, and it's in the thousandths with the TH. It's in the thousandths place value. That 8 ends in the thousandths place. So that's what you would have for those fractions from decimals. Example 5, write 3 75 hundredths as a mixed number. So again, if you know how to name this, instead of saying 3.75, you already know the answer. 3 and 75, it ends in this position, which is the hundredths with a TH. So it's the hundredths place. So that would be 3 and 75 hundredths. You could reduce that fraction to 3 and 3/4 because both of these are divisible by 25. This one is divisible by 25 as well. 75 divided by 25 is 3. 100 divided by 25 is 4. All right, let's try some of these. Find the value of each expression, 10 to the 4th power. For letter A, that's the same as 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. And what's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10? Well, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your answer should be 10,000 because you'd have 100 here if you were to multiply these two, and you multiplied those two, you'd have another 100. And 100 times 100 is 10,000 because there's still 4 zeros there. So that's your answer for letter A. Letter B, 2 to the 3rd power plus 2 to the 4th power. Now don't forget that you need to do exponents first. So 2 times 2 times 2, which is what that means, and 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is what that one means. We have to do those first because they are exponents. Exponents, exponents. Then we do the addition after that because it's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And we're going to start with parentheses. There are none. Exponents, yes. So we're going to do that first. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 more would be 8. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So this would be 8 plus 16, which in the end equals 24, because we're going to do the addition last. We don't have any multiplication or division, and we don't have any subtraction to do. All right, letter C. In this one, it says 2 to the second power, or 2 squared, times 5 squared. Again, you have to do the exponents first. So this one would mean 2 times 2, and then it also means times 5 times 5. Now, you're looking at times all the way across here. So if you're using, again, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, you've got the exponents, you've got it split up into what it means, 2 times 2. Now you're going to do the multiplication. You could technically do this straight across if you wanted to. I'm just going to look at it probably in the clearest sense that I can. This would be 4, and this would be 25. I know what 4 quarters are. That's 100. So that would be my answer for letter C. Letter D, write the prime factorization of 72 using exponents. So 72, I'm going to do division by prime. That would be, let's see, 4 would be too much because that would be 8. So I'm going to go back to 3. 3 would get me to 6, which would be 1 away. 1 is up here. 12 now, divided by 2 is 6. This will divide by 6. I'll get 18. This will be, or sorry, divide by 2. 18 divided by 2 will be 9. 9 divided by 3 will be 3. And 3 divided by 3 would be 1. So now I've got this. 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. Well, that's the same as 2 to the third power times 3 squared, which is going to equal 72. This is what the answer is, and that's what they're looking for. Prime factorization of 72, but using exponents. And that's what this is. This is not using exponents. This is still equal to 72, but it's not using exponents to label those. All right, let's do letter E here. Write each decimal number as a fraction or a mixed number. So letter E, you should have put 12.5. And if you didn't know that right off the bat, you would have said, well, that's 12 5/10. If you read that decimal, and 5/10 reduces to 1/2, so it's 12.5. All right, letter F. 1 and if I read that, I would have given you the answer. Go ahead and do letter F. That's 1 and 25 hundredths, but it has to be reduced to 1 and they're both divisible by 25. 25 divided by 25 is 1. 100 divided by 25 is 4. So this would be 1 and 1/4 as a mixed number. Letter G. This would be 125 as the numerator, and it's in the thousandths place, so that's 1,000. Now I need to reduce this. Both of these are, I'm going to use division by primes, and I'm going to do prime numbers in this to be able to reduce this quicker for me personally. So I'm going to do 125 divided by 5, which I know is 25. This would be 5. This would be 5, 5. So I know that the numerator is 5 times 5 times 5. The denominator is 1,000. I kind of remember that's 3 2s and 3 5s. So I'm going to put 5s first, just because I got the 5s there, and then I got 3 2s. I just remember that from previous lessons. If I did that, it'd be 2, that'd be 500. This would be 2. This would be 250. This would be 2. This would be 125. This would be 5. This would be the same over here as that. That'd be 5. This would be 5 and another 5. So you see that it works out like that. This cancels that out, that one, that one. So all I'm left with is 1 times 1 times 1 up here, 1 times 1 times 1 times 2 times 2 times 2 down here. That means that 125 thousandths is the same as 1/8. Okay. Letter H. Name that as a fraction or a mixed number. So you should have put 5 as the numerator, and it's in the hundredths place. This is in the hundredths place. So make sure that you have that as the denominator. This can be reduced. Both of these are divisible by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 100 divided by 5 is 20. So that should be 1/20th as the final answer for letter H. Letter I, here your numerator is given to you again. It's 24. And what's the place value that 4 is in? It's at the hundredths place. I see that both of these are divisible by 4, so I'm going to start with that. We'll see if that gets me to the very reduced fraction. This would be 6. This would be 25. It looks like that would be it, because 6 and 25 have no common factors. And letter J, this would be 10 and 2/10, because the 2 is in the tenths place, and that they're both divisible by 2, so that'd be 10 and 1/5. So that would be your answer for letter J. 10 and 2/10 is the same as 10 and 1/5 as a mixed number, because 2/10 reduces to that. Excellent work today. Make sure again you review everything you saw here if you didn't catch it. If it's something that was challenging, rewind and review it. And then don't forget to do all of the problems 1 through 30 in lesson 73 today, so that you can pick up all the previous lessons and do the practice required in Saxon math. It is very important that you do all of the problems each day in every lesson. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night.